In last week's video, I walked you through how to study a painting by John Singer Sargent and really understand it. Now, let's dive in to what I think is the most overlooked and underestimated part of the painting process when it comes to achieving that fresh, painterly approach that Sargent is known for. And that most overlooked, undervalued part is the block-in. This is where most painters go wrong. And I say that with love because I have been there. In fact, I go there often. If you overthink the block-in, you'll kill the freshness before the painting even begins. So in this video, I'm gonna break down my block-in process step by step and show you exactly what I focus on, and just as importantly, what I intentionally ignore and leave out, so that you can build a confident, elegant foundation that sets your paintings up for success. So if you've been struggling with stiff starts, or your early layers feel heavy or overworked, or you just have a suspicion that the beginnings of your paintings are setting you up for frustration and an overworked final product, stick around because this approach can be a game changer for your process. And if you're serious about mastering painterly portraiture, whether you want to paint specifically like Sargent, or you're interested in finding your own expressive voice, and you're ready for a real transformation, I would love to hear about your goals. Follow the link in the description to book a free call to map out a plan for your painting practice and see if working together with me would be a fit for both of us. All right, let's dive in. Picking up from last week, you may remember that my really big ambition for this year when it comes to my painting is to move in a more Sargent-specific direction, specifically for big, ambitious competition-style pieces that I could enter into something like Portrait Society of America or other Oil Painters of America exhibitions. And I was particularly inspired by Jamie Koreth, whom I think is maybe my favorite example of a painter working today who is really taking the spirit of Sargent's work and putting a contemporary spin on it. So, having analyzed both Sargent's piece and then Jamie Koreth's approach to his block-ins and looking for these areas of overlap, I want to show you how I'm applying that analysis as I begin the block-in to this Sargent master study. This is the stage where everything that I have learned has to translate into decisions. And the same goes for you in your own painting practice. And if you're anything like me, this is where it is so easy to start overworking. Because oftentimes we feel kind of intimidated by the blank canvas and we think, where do we actually start? And this is honestly the beginning of the end. I know that sounds really dramatic, but in an effort to simply fill the canvas, we start putting down as many marks as possible. And as you can imagine, this really sets us up to put down too many brushstrokes and create a final product that ultimately looks really overwrought. So if you overthink the block-in, you're likely to really kill the freshness of the painting before the painting even gets off the ground. So here's my strategy. First things first, I'm going in with a really intentional structure for this block-in. In the case of this specific painting, I'm beginning by establishing my drawing in paint and trying to do this as succinctly as possible while still remaining accurate. So I'm starting with thinned down paint that is meant to represent the darks, and I'm going ahead and establishing things such as the top of the head, the hairline, the eye line, the brow line, the indication for the bottom of the nose. On a normal portrait, I would find the bottom of the chin or the bottom of the lower lip or the crease between the lips. Although in a painting like this one, where our subject has this really lush beard, those landmarks can be more difficult to identify. So I'm having to adjust course a little bit. But as I get in this drawing, you'll notice that I'm really trying to avoid over-describing. I'm not going into a lot of detail. I'm simply trying to create an accurate mark that indicates where roughly a certain facial landmark falls, and I'm moving on. And so the second guiding principle here is that I'm really resisting detail. I know the temptation is to jump into the individual features, describing the eyes, the lashes, the lips, the brows, but I've trained myself to ask, what is the simplest version of this shape that I can lay down now? And what can wait? Another way that I prompt myself to entertain this question and engage with this question throughout the painting process is that I will often ask myself, if the painting had to be finished right now with this exact brushstroke, what would this brushstroke need to look like for this to feel like an elegant, finished piece as much as possible? Now, this is a little bit easier for me because I have spent a lot of time building up my kind of library of inspiration. And that inspiration includes things like drawings and studies. So in effect, I have a really nice mental library of pieces inspired by Sargent or from Sargent himself that really demonstrate what this has to look like even from the very beginning, without giving us the ability to take the final painting to this perfect finish. So I have a vision in my head of what a really elegant preliminary drawing looks like. I have a vision in my head of what a really great two-value block-in looks like. I have a vision in my head of what a really great initial block-in where we're exploring color might look like. In fact, that's precisely why I spent that previous video talking about Jamie Koreth and his block-in on this inspiration piece. This wasn't a finished painting, but rather it was a work in progress that Jamie shared that I think gave really great insights into what a piece can look like when it is just at the end of the block-in stage and it has the color established, but clearly there's such a strong economy of brushwork and everything has been put down in a way that is so intentional and so thoughtful. The next strategy that I'm employing is that I'm really keeping my value structure compressed. So I'm resisting the temptation to go into the darkest darks or the lightest lights. Everything should really be staying close to the middle value range, even if that's not where it should ultimately land by the time we get to the final painting. This really helps me to keep the piece unified and prevent it from feeling too chaotic too early. So I think a great example of this goes back to the brows. I was talking about the eyebrows in my previous video. Based on Jamie Koreth's piece, I can tell the darker accent mark came later, and I see the exact same thing evidenced in Sargent's painting here. So I'm starting with a lighter mass for the brows and really saving the dark inner half of the brow for the end. Same thing applies to the mass of the eye in general. I really appreciated how in Jamie's example, he clearly has this very subtle shadow mass for the entire eye socket. And then when he's describing something like the iris of the eye, it is very light. He's resisting the urge to go into the pupil itself or a dark ring around the edge of the iris. He's keeping everything really compressed toward the middle values. And so as I'm starting to go into color in this block-in, I am also really trying to follow that example and hold back, resist the temptation to put in really dark accents and try to keep my colors and my values really dialed toward the mid-range. Remember that decisive upper lash line that we saw in both Sargent's painting and in Jamie's painting? Well, that mark reads so powerfully because both artists were employing this same approach and they reserved that upper lash line mark until the end. Now, if this disciplined approach to block-ins is new for you, and especially if you're feeling stuck in a cycle of overworking, this is exactly the kind of thing that we deep dive into in my mentorships. If you're serious about really making a change in your painting process for the better and mastering painterly portraiture, make sure that you check out that link in the description so that we can get you on the path to real transformation. All right, now that we've talked about some of the general guiding principles for this particular portrait, let's move on to an area like the mustache and the beard. So based on my analysis, I'm going to be treating it as one flat shape first, and then layering darker accents in once everything is established. The same thing goes for some of the lighter accents in the beard as well. But here's what I found when I actually dove into this piece. It was easier said than done. When it comes to painting someone's face, there's so much intrinsic anatomy there. I have a sense of what the human skull typically looks like and how it is formed and built. And so even if something isn't very readable in one particular reference image or in a certain lighting scenario, I can draw on my experience of human anatomy in general to help me out. But when it comes to something like a beard, there isn't some universal anatomy there. So I'm kind of having to try and make sense of the structure that I'm seeing in Sargent's painting. And the result is that it's almost like I'm trying to do a master copy of a completely abstract painting versus trying to do a master copy of a portrait. There's just a little bit less shorthand for me to go off of. And I really saw this coming up. So I tried to resist the temptation as much as possible to start adding in what felt like random marks. I think looking back, it probably would have behooved me to think about the beard almost like a box. Now, this box wouldn't be straight up and down. It would be kind of angled back away from us so that we could see the bottom plane a little bit and we could maybe see one of the side planes a little bit. And I would actually think about there being a little bit more of a shadow shape around the planes of the box that are facing away from the viewer to a certain extent. So the bottom plane, the side planes will be a little bit darker. And I could probably go ahead and block those in a way that has a little bit more structure than what I actually accomplished here. But that's the beauty of these kinds of exercises. It's not really about having a perfect Sargent master copy to put on your wall or put into a frame and just be able to enjoy looking at it. It's much more about the process of learning. And that was my really big takeaway from this, is that I recognized so many places where my instincts and my muscle memory when it comes to block-ins was something I was actively having to fight or retrain in myself. And there were missed opportunities. But as I look at the piece and I reflect back on creating it, I have these clear takeaways that I'm going to carry forward into future paintings. So as I wrap up this block-in, I'm really trying to hold myself to one goal. When I stop, this should look more like Jamie's block-in than Sargent's finished piece. That's how I know I'm building the foundation, not skipping ahead or focusing too much on the final product to the detriment of the process and my learning. And the truth is, this is absolutely a journey. This is a learning process, not a one-time lesson. After I worked on this particular piece, I got the opportunity to go paint from life, and I gave myself the challenge of trying to create a block-in in much the same way that I did here. And in some ways I succeeded. I was able to focus on creating a beautiful block-in that by itself could look like a finished piece that I would feel satisfied with and feel is really beautiful. But I very quickly reverted back to comfortable old habits. And the good news is that I recognized this when it was happening so that I could start to make some corrections. But it's definitely the kind of thing that it takes time to build up because I'm having to relearn a lot of old muscle memory that is simply ingrained. And this is why I really wanted to wrap up this video by bringing this point home. This isn't the kind of quick fix where you watch a video one time, you get the secrets, and you see your work transform. This is the kind of transformation that takes iterations. It takes sticking with it because it takes time to unlearn bad habits. It takes time to replace them with the better process that sets you up for the kind of style you want to be working in. And I know this from my own experience time and time again. It's why I try to be really curious when I find myself making mistakes, instead of being judgmental or being really hard on myself or demanding perfection. And it's also why I know that having a really trusted support system or having a mentor in place to support you can be really, really helpful, because that journey to shifting your approach naturally comes with ups and downs. Some things click really easily, and some things you're just naturally going to require a little bit more hand-holding or support for. So if you're ready to go deeper and you want support applying this kind of thinking to your own work in a consistent, supportive way, I would love to help you take that next step. You can book a free call using the link in the description. We'll map out a plan together to help you to move forward with the kind of expressive, painterly portraits that you're dreaming of. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope this breakdown has helped you to look at your own process in a new way, and hopefully has given you permission to slow down, to plan, and to block in with clarity. I hope you'll take that momentum into your next piece, and I hope you'll join me for the next video where I will be taking this block in to a tentative finish without overworking it. Until that video, happy painting.